middle school teacher accused of having sex with a former student. Police say they found her in the act with the 15-year-old in a parked car in the middle of the night. CBS 4's Carrie Codd joins us live from the jail. Carrie.
Rick, we're told the victim in this case, that 15-year-old, was a student of Pamela Stigger's last school year. Stigger is in jail here at the Broward County Main Jail. And we're learning from investigators that when Stigger and the victim were found around 2 a.m. yesterday morning in the backseat of a car, she told deputies that she was in the process of mentoring him. This is Pamela Stigger's most recent photo shoot, a far cry from her comfort in front of a camera on YouTube.
Hello, my name is Pamela Stigger, and I will be doing my cover of Emergency.
The drama teacher clearly has a quest for fame, but now it's infamy she's found, facing serious charges of taking advantage of an underage boy.
Sexual assault, sexual battery.
The Broward Sheriff's Office says it was on this road in Tamarack around 2 a.m. Thursday morning where deputies found Stigger and a half-dressed 15-year-old boy in the backseat of a car parked on the road, obstructing traffic. Detectives say the boy, one of Stigger's former students, told them he and Stigger had sex. She told a different story.
She did say that she was in the process of mentoring this past student of hers, even though it was 2 o'clock in the morning and they were in the backseat of a car.
ESO says Stigger taught the child last school year.
This woman...
And because you succeeded at your feet, now you stuck. And you just gonna have to suck it up. Pun intended. Because now he want it all the time, and that's all that he is interested in. And no matter if you be like, okay, well, can we do this? Can we do that? Cool, he fine with doing all of that. But you gonna make sure that you gonna suck on this real quick before you get it. You do anything else. I don't know what else to tell you, baby, because ain't no turning back. He has seen the light.
Police say it all started after the Friday night lights of a Destrehan High School football game. That's when they say 32-year-old Shelley Dufresne of St. Charles Parish and 24-year-old Rachel Respes, both teachers at Destrehan High, went back to Respes's Kenner apartment and had sexual intercourse with a male student who was 16.
No matter what.
Good evening. Our big story on 12 News at 10. A Valley teacher who shared a lot of her extravagant life on social media is now behind bars, accused of having a sexual relationship with one of her 6th grade students.
The 13-year-old boy's mom going to the principal, claiming she found racy texts between the two on her son's cell phone. Team 12's Rachel.
From a high-flying, skydiving proposal and giant rock to a picture-perfect, show-stopping first dance at their wedding. Brittany Zamora and her husband seem like a match made. But now, a new sight of Brittany no one saw coming.
Miss Zamora, did you have an inappropriate...
The 27-year-old teacher staying silent as Goodyear police walk her into the 4th Avenue jail.
And things are not going well for high school English teacher Brittany Collops.
We do not recommend community supervision.
She slapped with a harsh sentence, 5 years behind bars for having sex with 5 of her students and staging what prosecutors would call a sex toy-filled orgy.
Your kids are what ages?
8, 6, and 5.
How did they react to the idea that you would possibly go to jail?
You know, it was really hard. They started crying and, you know, saying, "Mommy, we don't want you to go to jail."
Your husband had no idea this had happened.
Right.
Collops joins a list of female teachers who went too far with students, some leaving families in shambles, others with husbands betrayed.
To hear that she had slept with 5 of her students must have been tough.
It was tough. It was the toughest thing I've ever had to hear.
Just yesterday, Sarah Jones, the Bengals cheerleader and former teacher accused of having sex with a 17-year-old student, was released from 180 days house arrest.
I think people are taking this whole student-teacher thing. Yes, he was a student, but he was not my student.
Remember Mary Kay Letourneau? She served 7.5 years in prison for having a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old student, even giving birth to 2 of his
student-teacher thing. Yes, he was a student, but he was not my student.
Remember Mary Kay Letourneau? She served 7.5 years in prison for having a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old student, even giving birth to 2 of his babies behind bars.
What's up, everybody? It is your girl, your diva and knowledge, Lady Mocha. Represent Mocha's Cafe de Paris, where I'm always serving you wisdom, knowledge, and spiritual awareness. Big ups to all of my subscribers, those of you who have been rocking with me since I started my journey. I thank you for still being loyal to my channel. Those of you who have just subscribed, I thank you and welcome you to Mocha's Cafe de Paris family. And for those of you who like today's content and you love what you hear and you're interested in wanting to get to know more of my content, make sure you like, share, and definitely subscribe, and I would so gladly appreciate that. Now, I thought it was very imperative that I did this particular recipe concerning an issue that is a very touchy subject. And the truth of the matter is, these are one of those topics that we often do not really talk about. As a matter of fact, I rarely hear anybody talk about it on the YouTube because it involves women, females being pedophiles or having pedophilic tendencies. And I thought it was imperative that we address this, is because when it comes to the word pedophile, we automatically relate it to a man or a male. We think that pedophile usually fits the characteristic of a male, whether if it's a white male, a black male, older male, or a younger male. We automatically associate it with the man. But very rarely do we associate pedophiles with females. And believe it or not, it's becoming an ongoing issue in society that where there's a lot of female pedophiles that are taking advantage of younger youths and younger children. And basically, we've been hearing, several things about this on the news, but they don't highlight it as much. We heard about the Mary Kate situation where she was messing with a student. I think he was like, 13, 14 at the time. And she continued to stay with him all the way until he became an adult. She even had children from him. She had daughters from him. The daughters are grown now. He's a full-grown man now. She was a teacher, and she abused her authority, by having sexual encounters with this young man. In fact, she became so comfortable with it. She was willing to lose her marriage behind it. She lost her marriage behind it. She lost her children from her first husband. She was willing to lose everything to be with this young man. That's how infatuated she became with him. She did not have no mercy or no empathy for the young man's parents who she violated. She didn't have no empathy for his parents. I mean, her being a mother, you would think that she would at least have some type of empathy. Because if the shoe was on the other foot and somebody was, molesting her children or having relations with her children, I'm sure one would think that she would feel some type of way. But evidently, she really didn't care. She fell in love with him, and she was really, really serious and head over heels about this young man who was a child at the time when she was sexually involved with him. It was a really huge story that the media grabbed a hold of, and they really that story spread it like cancer. She pleaded guilty in 97 to 2 counts of felony second-degree rape of a child. The student name was Billy Fualua, however the hell you pronounce his last name, who was 12 or 13 at the time. When awaiting her sentencing, she gave birth to his children. Her plea agreement called for 6 months in jail with 3 months suspended and no contact with the young man's family. The case received national attention. Shortly after spending 3 months in jail, the police called her in a car with him. Judge found that she had violated the conditions of the plea agreement and revoked her parole. I mean, she was so infatuated with this young man. She was willing to keep going back to jail, keep didn't mind violating the law, just definitely taking a lot of chances that were critical to her life just so she can be with him. Judge resentenced her to the maximum of 7 years. 8 months after returning to prison, she gave birth to his second child, another daughter. So she has 2 daughters from him. So she was in prison from 1998 to 2004, and they married in 2005. She was with this young man for a very long time. And she was not the type of female, that you would categorize as a pedophile. She was married. She had children. She came from a decent background. She didn't come from a troublesome family. She wasn't molested. She wasn't, she didn't come from a damaging background where she experienced all type of sexual abuse. She had a normal childhood. She had loving parents. She was a cheerleader in school. So she came up normally. But even with all of that, her putting on this persona, she was married, she had children from her first husband. So again, she did not have the sign of, a woman that was troubled that would resort to this type of behavior. While she was in prison for the child rape, she did divorce her husband, and he gained custody of their 4 children. In 2010, they became grandparents, with their oldest son having a daughter. So, this was a really unforgivable situation. She caught a lot of heat. Both of them did, and more so her than him. And he stayed with her for a very long time. But I knew, and a lot of people knew, if anybody had any sense, that it was only a matter of time this young man was going to branch off and leave her. She took advantage of him at a young age. He didn't know any better. She was able to manipulate him with sex. She was able to manipulate him, with her seduction. She had a big advantage because, again, he was a kid. He was inexperienced. He didn't know any better. He didn't know the tricks. He didn't know the schemes. All he knew was, here's this attractive teacher who has a crush on me. Even though she looks rough and trailer parkish now, back then she was not a ugly female. And even now, to this day, she really doesn't look bad. I can tell she probably had to go through a lot to keep herself looking young to be appealing to him, because you have to realize, as she was getting older, he was steady getting younger. So I'm sure she had to go through some very drastic extremes to make herself look appealing to him. Of course, being intimidated by young women his age. It was only a matter of time before he started stepping out, creeping, and messing with females his age, because you got to realize she robbed him of his youth. She stole that from him, and eventually he's going to resort back to trying to relive his youth, because it was taken from him so early. So unfortunately, that was the price she had to pay. She's right now, she's 57 years old. She was born January 30th, 1962. So as you can imagine, she definitely had a big advantage over him as far as age-wise. They did divorce in 2005. And like any other young man, he got tired of that old hot pocket. Him being young and immature, I'm sure he doesn't really have the psyche to understand that when you marry, marriage is about changes. Your wife, when you first meet your wife, of course she's perky and she's in shape and still looks good. But people who are older and who have been married for a long time, they understand those changes and they learn to embrace them. But this is a young man, even though he's in his early 30s today or whatever, he's still a young man. So as his wife started aging on him, of course he started losing some type of attraction. He didn't get a chance to be with women his age because, again, she robbed him of his youth when he was only 13 years old. So, of course, now he's an older man. He looks good, definitely. He looks good for his age. Of course, females his age is going to be attracted to him. You know, and especially all the publicity he received. You know, an older woman willing to lose her job, her career, her marriage, and everything. That makes a lot of these young girls curious. Like, wow, I wonder what's up with him. I wonder how good he is. You know, it was only a matter of time he was going to end up dealing with somebody his age. I mean, it did take a rocket scientist to figure that out. I don't know how long she thought she was going to be able to keep getting away with that. And see, she had an advantage being that she was older and she was his first love. He probably never had got that type of attention the day before in his life, you know. And I'm sure it was exciting for him. It was fascinating for him. Like it would be for any young man, you know, who has an older woman that's interested in him. But what these older women are not understanding is that eventually they're going to want females their age. They're going to want somebody young because again, they're, you know, as you become older as a woman, your body goes through changes. You start wrinkling. You know, you wrinkle up. The sex is probably not as adventurous. You don't really have a whole lot in common. You know, while you up here talking about getting double ARP insurance, you know, to pay your medical bills, his state of mind is nowhere near any of that. He's 35 today, she's 60. So, say age wise, use my calculator, y'all, because I'm not good at math. So just bear with me. But I know it's a huge significant age gap. And it was only a matter of time this dude was not going to be with her. I don't know how she figured this young man was going to be with her for the rest of her life. And watching her body get wrinkled, you know, watching her age in the face. It was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time. Now, let me see. He's 35. She's 57. Okay. So there's a 22 age difference. Wow. 22 year. So that just goes to show you it was doomed from the start. It was definitely, it was doomed from the start. You know, I don't know what made her think she was going to be with this young man for the rest of her life, but she was doomed from the start, and she caught a lot of heat from it, which she definitely deserved. She deserved everything she got. You know, she was wrong on so many levels. I can't give her a pass on anything. I mean, you was married, you violated your marriage. Not only that, you violated this young man's life because you knew he was young. She just was strong and wrong. There's just no excuse. You know, I mean, it's dead, it's over and done. He's grown now. She's definitely a senior citizen. So, I mean, at this point, you know, what's been done has been done. But, yeah, he ended up leaving her. He ended up leaving her. As time went on, she steady getting older and he was getting younger. So, it was bound to happen. I mean, I'm surprised he stayed with her that long, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's one scenario. There's this other scenario that came about recently with this other lady who was also a teacher at a school, and I'm not understanding why these teachers who know they have authority under the Board of Education, that they have an obligation to protect people's children. That is your job as a teacher. You're supposed to protect the children. You're supposed to teach the children. And you're supposed to just do your job. That's what it boils down to. But these female pedophiles, they are actually lusting over their students. They're lusting. Police officer had called Miss Pamela Stigger, which was a drama teacher, caught performing a sexual act on a 15-year-old student in the back of her car. Police officer caught her with half undressed schoolboy, a former pupil, in the back of her car around 2 a.m. But initially said that he was the one seducing her. Just like a woman. automatically tried to blame the child, and she was the adult. How ironic. Drama teacher had an unscripted run-in with the law while allegedly performing a sex act on an underage student in her car during the middle of the night. Pamela Stigger, which was 33 at the time, because this occurred May 2017. She was 33, so that was what, like 2.5 years or something like that. She claimed she was only trying to mentor him. But the 15-year-old told police she had told him to go to the back seat where they took off their trousers and underwear and had sex. The aspiring actress then reportedly got dressed and was performing oral sex on him when he told her a sheriff's deputy was walking towards the car. The female officer swooped in Tamarack, Florida after a call about a suspicious-looking vehicle obstructing traffic with no one in the front seats at approximately 2 a.m. So you had to want to get caught. I mean, there's no way in the world. You could have parked behind a Waffle House somewhere. You could have parked in the woods somewhere. You could have parked in an abandoned doggone behind an abandoned warehouse. I mean, there was so many other seclusive areas if you was going to go there. So I don't know if you're just that damn dumb, or maybe because you got some people that got some sick ass sexual fetishes. So maybe that, gave her an adrenaline rush just knowing they could get caught. I don't know what her motives were, but that was the dumbest thing she could have did. She said she saw Officer saw Stigger in the back with the boy who was naked from the waist down. Sheriff spokeswoman Gina Carter said when she was questioned about what they were doing and if they had, in fact, engaged in sexual acts, she denied being engaged in these sexual acts, despite the fact that the young man was undressed. Stigger faced 2 charges of sexually assaulting the student who was in her drama class. She was also accused of lewd and lascivious activity on a minor. I can't read today, y'all. The lad told investigators Stigger was driving him home when she pulled over and started kissing him in the early hours of Thursday morning. Steiger, who, according to investigators, has a custodial relationship over the teen, is said to have denied having sexual contact with him. She initially accused him of attempting to seduce her before changing her story in Carter. As you can see, y'all, she basically she didn't want to take accountability, knowing good damn well she seduced that young man. And what a lot of people don't understand is, when you are in a position and you're given a certain amount of authority, whether if you're a teacher, you're a preacher, you have any type of authoritative positions, you're a police chief, you would definitely be penalized if you violate your authority by taking advantage of somebody, because you have a duty and you have an obligation. And definitely as a teacher, you have an obligation. Your students are supposed to be able to go to school and feel safe. They shouldn't have to be sexually coerced into participating in adult activities. She was just way out of pocket, bottom line, and she definitely got what she deserved. And to make matters worse, this lady, she was blogging with her husband. She used to be a YouTube blogger, and her and her husband would give a lot of advice on relationships, and coincidentally they did one particular topic on how a man and a woman should please each other by contributing oral sex. And my thing is, you got caught performing that on the other young man. So my thing is, was your own husband even getting sexual favors from you? Probably not, because you was too busy blowing off this other young man. But that's a whole nother story. That was one. Then there's a couple of more instances where there was 2 white female teachers also who was having group sex with young men in their school as well. Matter of fact, there's been several cases. I've seen more cases in which white females that were teachers or had any type of teaching positions, the majority of them have gotten caught having sexual encounters with their students. So this is a common issue, and I hate to say that's definitely not good. I'm not saying that as if, yeah, it's common, it happens all the time, so what, no big deal. No, the problem is it's happening way too frequently. There are just way too many women out here that are lusting after young men that are still boys, and in many cases they're not even young men, they're boys. And this is the reason why I thought it was very imperative, that I did this particular recipe, is because when we hear the word perversion, we automatically think it has something to do with a man. Or as I mentioned earlier, when we hear the word pedophile, we automatically want to associate it with a man. But the truth is, there are some there's a large percentage of perverted, lustful females. There's a high percentage of perverted females in the society today. And there's just as many lustful women as there are lustful men who have no control, who lack discipline over their sexual urges. And you can easily, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out when a person is lacking self-control over their sexual urges, because whenever you resort to messing with children, young people that are underage, that already lets me know right there, you are already far beyond out of control, because you shouldn't even have those type of desires as a grown man or a grown woman. But right now we're talking about grown women, because we hear people talking about these male pedophiles all the time. We hear society always dressing these male sexual predators, these male pedophiles. We hear about that all the time, but very rarely do we want to address these women pedophiles. And there's a reason for that, why a lot of these females are drawing towards children, boys, to have sex with. Now, in this case, like I said, it's different scenarios, but I notice the majority of these females that have participated in sexual activities with young men, most of them were already married. Majority of them are married. They're already in relationships. And the thing about it is, these women that are participating in sexual encounters with their students, they are not ugly looking women. Even the Caucasian women, cases that I've seen, these are nice looking women. These ain't no hurt, toe up from the floor looking type of females. These ain't no Shrek. Nice looking women that can get any man they want. But they choose to target boys. And I believe there are some dynamics behind that. I believe that some of these females, for one, they definitely lack so low self-esteem. They lack insecurities. And guess what? Just because you're a married woman, that don't mean you're a secure woman now. Even if they got husbands at home who they can have sex with and they got children with, that still don't mean that they feel secure. Because some women, their self-esteem is so low, their husbands validating them is not enough. Their husbands telling them, you look pretty, I think you look good, I love you for who you are, is not enough. Their self-esteem is so low, they still need to be validated from other men outside of the marriage, outside relationship. So self-esteem and insecurities is definitely a big issue, because anytime a woman have to resort to getting attention from a boy, that already lets me know you have some psychological issues and you definitely lack self-esteem. The next issue is this: some women are so highly sexually perverse that messing with younger age boys is actually a fetish for them. It's a turn on for them. Some women love to have sex with boys versus having sex with men. A man, even in some sexual encounters, a man pretty much knows what he wants. And most men are already experienced, meaning that they've already had other women do sexual favors to them that even though they still may enjoy it, but it's not so exciting because they have had it several times. There's not too many grown men in their 40s and 50s who have not experienced with all type of women, who have not experienced in all type of oral sex, have not experienced in all type of sexual positions. So you can't really turn a man out that's experienced with having sex with these various women. Now, it's easy on the other hand, if you take a young boy that's 13, 14 years old, you can easily turn him out, because he does not have that sexual experience. So some of these women love the fact that they are the first. They love the power of getting these young men hooked on them. They want these guys, they want these young boys to become infatuated and to fall in love with them, and not understanding that these young men, they're not falling in love, they're falling in lust, because it's the sex that they're going off of. They're still emotionally underdeveloped. They don't know how to love a woman. They don't know how to protect a woman. They don't know how to appreciate a woman, or whatever the case is, because they're not mentally developed. They're still in boy mode. So some of these women, they get a thrill off of that. This female, Miss Stigger, she probably loved the fact that she was able to give this young man a sexual favor that he probably has never received before. And if he did, most likely it would have been from a young female his age, who probably was very inexperienced and not as gifted in providing that type of favor compared to a grown woman that's experienced. So some of these female pedophiles, they love the fact of being first, and being, they love the fact that they are the first ones to turn these young men out. That gives them a sense of empowerment. And not only that, empowerment is one. Again, some of these women have a high sex drive, and let's face it, even as men become older, I don't care how much men might keep their stroke game up, but as a man becomes older, and he goes through changes in life, he's not going to be able to probably freak his wife as much as he used to when they first started out, and when they first got together young. And it happens in the relationships and marriages. You go through these droughts. When you first got together at 19, 20, y'all was probably having sex 3-4 times out the week. For some strange reason, when you start going into your 40s, you may go from having sex 5 times a week to 3 times a week, and sometimes 2 on one, because life brings about changes. You got responsibilities. It's not always about sex no more, and you jumping in the bedroom, jumping in the sack to sexually appease each other. Y'all dealing with real issues. You got mortgage payments, you got children you got to take care of, you got responsibilities. And it does not mean that you're not sexually active, but just things take place in a marriage where sex is not a priority. But if you're dealing with a man or a woman that has a high sex drive, and they are selfish to that, and they don't understand that, and they're not compassionate enough to understand that the marriage does come with droughts and ups and downs, and they're going through that peak of where they really want to be sexually aroused, and that mate is not fulfilling their needs as much, they'll go out there and get it somewhere else. Just like you have men who go out and step outside of their marriage because their wives is not sexing them enough and not sexually pleasing them enough. They'll step outside. You got some women like that. You got some women where their husbands are lame in the bedroom. Now, he's a great provider. He's a workaholic. He makes sure the bills are paid. All that is wonderful. But some of these married men, they're cornballs. They're lames in the bedroom. Things have changed with them that is a turn off to their wife. The man may have put on weight. Maybe his stomach done got too big. When they're having a sexual encounter, she's feeling more of his gut than, feeling anything else. He done aged on her. He done got lame on her. He don't hardly want to do anything anymore. Just like you have some women that can get lame on their husbands. You all got some dudes that can get lame on their wives. They just dry and stale as a box of vanilla wafers that's been unopened for 2 weeks. And sometimes these women, they need excitement, and they figure with these young women and young men, and I'm not saying this because I'm proud of it, I'm saying it's a good thing, I'm just breaking down the elements. And sometimes for these women, they need to be sexually aroused, especially if you got a woman that has a high sex drive. And in some cases, some of these women, they sex drive is so high to the point that some of these grown men don't want to deal with them. And at one time, I thought it was a myth. I've heard grown men say there is a such thing as too much sex, and I'm like, come on, you're a man, and you got a penis. What you mean a woman, can sometimes want too much? That's like saying a big girl, that had too much cake. How does that work? You know what I mean? How was too much too much? And basically he said, you got some women out there, they are like animals. They got animal instincts. They got to have sex all of the time. And it could become a bit much, so not all men are crazy about women who love to have sex all the time. In some cases, I've heard some men say, I had to cut off, I had to stop dealing with her. She was wearing me out. I couldn't deal with it. So you have some of these women that got high sex drives, and if their husbands cannot keep up, they will step outside and look for excitement. But versus looking for that excitement, which she shouldn't even be stepping out because she's a married woman. But the fact is, not only you already stepping out, but you're stepping out with a child. What it is women who do this, young boys still have a stamina because they're not as experienced, so they have all of this energy to freak these older women the way they want to be freaked. Okay, not only that, she has the advantage to train him as to how to freak her, because some of these older men, as they become older, they get stubborn. They don't want you training them or programming them on how to have sex with you. No different than you have some women, who don't want to, men who don't feel like having to train a woman how to please them. You got some women, they don't want to have to train their husbands how to please them. He's stuck and stubborn in his ways. Oh, I'm not doing that. I'm not, just like you got some women. I ain't doing that. I ain't about to, go there. I ain't doing all that. Get some young girl out there. I've heard men say this. Yeah, he's probably stubborn, and man, I've been working all day. I don't have time to freak you. I got bills. I got to get up early in the morning, whatever. He just don't have the energy, and that's a part of life. So these young guys, they got all the energy in the world to freak the hell out you because they're not paying no bills. They don't have no responsibilities. They're still in school or barely getting out of school. He got all day to pump up and down on her like a rabbit. And what it is, she's getting the best of both worlds. You getting this young man to freak the hell out you. You training him to do all of what you want him to do to you in the bedroom. You done train him how to go down. You done train him how to hit certain spots. You done trained him, how you want the sex. All of this, is the reason why a lot of these females resort to female pedophile behavior. These young men, these boys, they have an advantage to train them. And she gets, as I stated before, she gets the best of both worlds. She get this young man to freak her the hell out, and at the same time, she has her husband at home who's paying the bills, who's providing. So she's having her cake and eating it too. Another reason why a lot of these female pedophiles resort to this type of behavior, because in many cases, some of them, when they were growing up, they probably didn't get the best of attention when they were young females. When they was in middle school, they was in high school. Probably was the ugly duckling, or wasn't, the popular girl. So the fact that once you become a teacher, and in many instances, if you're an attractive teacher, you become that quote unquote popular girl, which really you're supposed to be a grown-ass woman. But from their psyche, they feel like they're the popular girl. They went from being a student to now I'm a teacher. When they were students, they didn't get the attention they got from men their age around that time. They didn't get all this recognition. They didn't get too many guys checking for them. But now that they are teachers, and especially if they have blossomed from ugly ducklings to beautiful swans, now this gives them that sense of being a popular girl. Not only that, the psyche of these women, when they see these young men, you have to realize these young men look different from how young men looked back in our day. When I was in middle school, boys, guys, even when they were built and and had nice lean body, teachers knew that was still a student, that was still a kid, no matter what, no matter how masculine they look. But when you're dealing with the psyche of a female pedophile, she's not looking at him as a boy. She's not looking at him as a child. She's looking at his physical physique as a man, because he has big arms, because he has a nice six-pack chest, it brings her back to that moment of her youth where she probably was attracted to young men her age when she was 16, 17, 18, but young men her age then wasn't checking for her. They were checking for the most popular girls. But now that you're a full-grown woman, you see these guys, these young men coming into your classroom with these bulky chests, these broad shoulders, and your psyche has basically made you overlook the fact that they are still boys. They are children. You're looking at these young boys as men. And this is where that lustful, emotional type of persona takes over. Your lustful desires take over because you're not looking at him as a child. You're looking at him as a man. And that's what happens in a lot of instances with these male pedophiles when they sexually get involved with these young females, because they're looking at how overly developed she is. They're looking at how big her tits is, how big her ass is. But I don't care how thick she is in certain places, that's still a child. But in the mind of a pervert don't see child. A pervert don't see age. A molester, a pedophile, they don't see age. All they see is lust, and it's a demonic spirit that has caused a lot of grown men and grown women to lose their marriages, to lose their career, to get criminal records that stain them for the rest of their life, all because they failed to get any psychiatric help for getting rid of those lustful desires that are inappropriate for a grown man or a grown woman to have towards a child. So these are many different factors that play into these females becoming females pedophiles. A lot of them don't feel confident enough to get men their age. Men their age, you can't turn a man out like I stated before, that's grown and experienced and know the game. You can't turn him out. But the bad part about it is these women who allow their lustful desires to get the best of them, they end up catching a lot of hell in the end. They get really ridiculed for it. You lose your job. It's hard to become a teacher. You got to get licensed. You got to get certified every so many years and stuff like that. Just the fact that these women are willing to lose so much. You're willing to lose your marriage, lose good husbands, when you got women out here who would give anything to get a husband, would give anything to get married. The majority of these women that resort to this behavior are women who are already in well-off situations, well established. But it just goes to show, looks are very deceiving. Like I said, a couple of these women, they didn't have troublesome marriages. They tried to come up with all kind of excuses later. Well, I was getting abused and this and that, the third. Well, if that was the case, why you didn't divorce your husband before you decided to become sexually involved with your male students? So, it's just that the system gives these females a lot of leniency. These women, these female pedophiles, they get away with murder compared to what these male pedophiles would get away with. But what's starting to happen now is laws are tightening up on these females. They're not getting away with near as much. They have to register as well. I know here in Chatham County, where I am located, we have a website where it shows all of the sexual offenders in your area. And we do have a couple of female offenders that are that are registered as sexual offenders. So the law is not sparing these female pedophiles, regardless of what. They get a criminal record that follows them for the rest of their life. And God forbid, if it goes on the news, your face is all over the media. Media never let you live it down. It's just way too much that a woman loses when she makes those type of decisions and everything. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of these women, you have some women out here, they are sexually demonic. They have animal instincts when it comes to having sex. They don't care with who, they don't care how, they don't mind demeaning themselves. You have some women that are sex addicts. They are addicted to sex. And the only candidates they can find to fall prey to their sexual appetite are these young men, these young boys. Because these young boys, you know, they have all the energy, so they'll go along with it as long as she will allow it to, you know, until eventually, you know, he wears out. But the slims of that is slim to none until he begins to age himself. But yes, this is an ongoing problem in society. There's too many female pedophiles that are taking advantage of young men, whether if they're taking advantage as teachers, if they're taking advantage as any other type of leadership positions. The truth of the matter is, it is not a good look for them, and I don't have any empathy or sympathy for these female pedophiles. They deserve to get locked up, key thrown away. They don't deserve no leniency. And the sad part is, some of these females who have participated in this behavior, their husbands are still forgiving. Their husbands, I mean, you've seen the man in this clip, you know, he still wanted to be with his wife after she embarrassed him and humiliated him. So, you know, of course, you got some dudes that's gonna simp for their wives no matter what, you know, and you have some like Mary Kate husband. Once he found out, he was like, oh hell no, I'm done. You messing with boys, you know. He left. He wasn't about to deal with that, and I can't blame him. But anyway, y'all, I would like to get y'all opinion. What do y'all feel about these female pedophiles? Because again, nobody wants to talk about this. We want to talk about the male pedophiles. So what do y'all think about these female pedophiles? Make sure y'all leave a comment below, and I would love to get y'all intake on that. Also, again, for all of you women out here who are interested in joining my baby mama drama webinar, you're in a relationship with a man that has a very toxic baby mama. You're running out of solutions. You're getting discouraged. You want to end your relationship. You want to end your marriage. Before you throw in the towel, I would really like for you to attend my webinar class. If you would like, you can also invite a friend. I'm charging $25 per person to attend my webinar. It's going to be a live webinar, so you get to ask me questions. It's not just a recorded webinar where you just got to take the information I give you. I will actually be interacting. If you bring your friend, versus it being 25 a piece, 50, I'll knock it down to 30 if you bring a friend with you as well who may also be having this problem. So anyway, y'all, make sure before you log off, you like, share, and subscribe, and don't go away just yet. You know, I got my last laugh segment that's coming up, so make sure you check it out before you just exit the stage. All right, again, it's your girl Lady Mocha. Remember, I'm going to always pour you a cup of truth, and I'm going to always break you off a slice of knowledge. Stay tuned for last laughs.
I know I'm gonna do it. Ah, shit.